Hey, wake your ass up. Let's go. It's race time.
Okay, and welcome everybody to F1 2022, the Austrian Grand Prix from the Ostschleichring in Spielberg, Austria. I don't play guitar in the shower because that would just be dangerous. And it's a beautiful country, of course. Lots of singing goes on. I can see somebody singing. Bull semen has been used in this area since the 1800s to give good fortune to newlyweds. Most prize comes from rusty-coloured nuts, which give large amounts of Red Bulls. Also, there's Peter. He's got to Austria early. The A1 ring used to be twice the size that it is now, and it was called the AO ring. But half was given to Hungary to make the Hungary ring. That's a donut joke, for those that didn't get that. And yes, more singing. I can hear Peter's singing voice right there. Look, there it is. Oh, that's beautiful. Well done. He does love his chickens. I'll say that much. And there it is, a beautiful colour. Gorge, the mountains of Austria. Like, and there's nobody famous comes from around these parts, by the way. Have I said that before? Nobody famous comes from Austria. Oh, apart from Peter, of course. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Fabio, my Italian expert co-host.
I just want to be sure that you're not going to mention the war.
What war?
About. Yes, exactly.
No, I'm not going to mention the war. I'd never do that. I'm British. We never don't mention the war is a number one rule in this country, so we never do. Hitler! So there's always that. Anyway, moving on, we were in Austria, where there were no people like Hitler at all in the crowd. We're not talking about that particular incident. No, never, because there's never been a racist person at all ever in Austria, according to the F1, and that is an official Ben Salim kind of comment, really, I guess. It's been a bit of a weird fucking Grand Prix, if you ask me. I'll tell you why it's weird, because the FIA have gone all doolally. Don't you think?
They made a shitstorm with all the sensors in the thing. You know, F2 race was a mess. Yeah.
What the hell was going on? Anyway, we are going to get to all of that very shortly, so that's cool. And right, okay. So I guess we just get on with the race review and see what was going on. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's fantastic. So race is the race review for the Austrian Grand Prix. On pole position was the Tiger tank, with the Panzer tank in second place. Okay, and basically they started the race just in Germany, North Germany, and it was 300 miles to Poland. So that was the race, and it was dominated. I got to say that early on the race was dominated by the Germans, namely the Germans, dominated mainly by the Germans, but later with the Haas team and the Americans coming in late, we managed to repel them from most of Europe, even though they had already bought the Alpine team. Okay, oh no, that wasn't the race. I'm describing something else, Fabio.
I don't know.
I don't know what, though.
I was just following you. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I wouldn't do that.
I was just waiting. I was just waiting for the part where you said that the war was won by the Italians. I was just waiting for that.
And damn, I missed the trick. I'd forgotten about that. Once they changed sides, the Italian won. Okay. Anyway, there you go. Oh, now you've got me thinking now. Okay, anyway.
Well,
Onwards. So in pole position, of course, was Max Verstappen for the Austrian Grand Prix. 71 laps of pure madness round what is effectively... well, let me just... I should actually look at my notes that I read right before actually starting
yeah,
this.
I mean, okay,
Yeah.
are you thinking about 2021? Because I
I
haven't seen
probably
that
am.
race. Yeah.
Okay, I probably am. Okay,
Okay.
so let me start again here, right?
Sprint
Austria.
race.
Austria, the A1
Yes.
ring, the Red Bull ring, whatever it's called, the Austrian ring. It's this is a very fast circuit. It's madness, really. 77% full throttle, 77, 10 corners, and 25 DRS zones. So those are my notes. I counted them all, counted them in, and I counted them back.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, no worries. Yeah, so Max Verstappen on pole position. Second place was, of course, Charles Leclerc, the pacey pastry, who turned out to be very pacey. The third place was Carlos Sainz, the Carlos Sainz, who was, yeah, anyway, we won't go there just yet. And fourth place, Sir Lewis Hamilton. And 5 lights went out. A fantastic start, of course, as always, by Verstappen. Leclerc getting a pretty good start. Into second place for Leclerc. Then, and I can't remember the race, so this is going to be good for me to do the review. Lewis Hamilton pushing Carlos Sainz wide in the first corner. Verstappen getting away. Then, of course, down the straight with the top speed from the Ferrari getting past Lewis Hamilton. And Perez and Lewis getting together. Perez having enough room to go around. This is going to be a constant theme of mine. Perez having enough room to go around the outside of a corner of Lewis Hamilton, although Lewis Hamilton managed to get him out braking into turn 5 or 6. And then they got together, unfortunately, because, of course, Perez didn't want to give up the place. Perez spinning off. Lewis seemed to me to have room, but got on the curbs too much and managed to understeer out into the to the Mexican. Still, there you go. Lap 12 happened, and Leclerc onto the back of Verstappen. There we go. Onto the back of Verstappen finally, and manages to get past him in a fantastic overtaking manoeuvre. Again, using all of the track, and this time Verstappen obviously aware that that's going to happen, almost like they actually do know exactly what they're doing when they're in those corners. But there you go. And then Leclerc pulls away. Lewis Hamilton, unfortunately, due to that contact with Perez, dropped back behind the Hasses and had once again, in the second race in a row, had great problems getting past the Hasses. Mick Schumacher in behind, but once he got in the DRS zone, he managed to do it this time. Then closed in, of course, on Magnussen. A few laps later, he was up behind Magnussen, and with DRS, it was a relatively easy overtake. Magnussen not fighting it. Obviously knew what his positions he was fighting for in the race, or at least he wasn't fighting Lewis for the for the position. Then Perez coming back through the pack. I should say Max Verstappen having pitted. Is that right? Max Verstappen. Yeah, Max Verstappen having pitted, which they didn't show here for some fucking reason. Then dropped behind Lewis Hamilton and on his hard tyres and started to come back through the pack. This was lap 18. And he overtook Lewis easily, the speed of the Red Bull showing once again. Then several battles between, Bottas and Alonso and Zhou. Zhou driving very well again, I have to say, and Alonso doing his best as always, pretty much out driving the car. However, Magnussen managed to get past them both in one fantastic maneuver. I think Zhou was basically holding people up. And then comes Norris on the outside into another corner, managing to drive around the outside of Alonso and challenge Magnussen. And then Mick Schumacher bringing up the rear. Zhao losing several places all in one corner. Lack of experience there. Again, fantastic driving by Magnussen, leaving room, making sure he wasn't getting into any kind of problems with driving people off the road, as penalties did seem to be a real issue. And again, maybe there's something here to say. FIA again, problems with the stewards once again. A lot of penalties were given for not just driving off track or track limits, but also for 2 incidents, one with Vettel and one with Russell, who had problems both later in the races with having contact with people mid-corner when they were being overtaken around the outside, or in Alonso's case, he was overtaken round the outside, and they deemed that he was at fault. Right? So how that works, I don't know. But anyway, there you go. It just shows you that there's a reason why the rules were: if you have the inside line, you have right in the corner. And the reason for that is both drivers can play a game in corners if they really wish. The driver on the outside can move in and squeeze the person on the inside to give them less steering turn for traction. Or the person on the outside can do what is traditionally done, which is to open the wheel slightly sooner to get more traction and push the other driver off the circuit. Traditionally, that's how the rules have been favoured. But of course, the FIA tried to change that a few years ago to give more overtaking, or at least better chances for cars to drive side by side. Unless they come down on it and have some structured kind of definition, which they have now clarified, but badly in my opinion, unless they actually start making the tough decisions, then we're just going to get Silverstone to Austria to Silverstone to Austria to Silverstone, and have really inconsistent rules again being applied, and that leaves the drivers nowhere. All right, if you notice that Verstappen was perfectly able to drive with Leclerc without no problem, and they were racing for the lead of the race. And the reason for that is they both knew that the other would take them out if they didn't give them room, that they were always going to drive them off the track. Right? That was the difference. They knew what the rules were. And drivers can get along once they know what the rules are. Right? So again, I am squarely putting the blame of so many incidents, and there were I think 4 in this particular race, on the stewards there. Anyway, moving on. Let me just have a quick cough. Beg your pardon. Okay. So onwards with the race. Pit lap 27. The Ferrari into the pits of Leclerc, coming out onto hard tyres, finally making their move. Many laps later, that was some 12 laps later than Verstappen pitted, and that was going to be the key to the race. Hamilton taking. Leclerc eventually catches back up with Verstappen on his old hards and made an easy overtake, and he was significantly faster at this point. Later, Binotto would say it was good tactics to pressure Verstappen in the first part or on the first stint. But of course, I don't know what else he'd do. So if he thinks that's good tactics, then I'm glad he's been paying attention for the last 50 years of motor racing. Verstappen back into the pits for his second pit stop. They put him back out on hards, lap 37, to go to the end of the race. This is an admission that they just couldn't get they couldn't get it right. They couldn't get the tyre wear right, this particular circuit, which is surprising considering it is their home circuit. But nonetheless, it goes to show you that there is going to be a lot more in this season to come, as the Ferrari is considerably easier on its tyres, even at a circuit like this, which isn't particularly tyre sensitive normally. This is a power sensitive circuit, obviously, with these straights and slow corners. So I guess what we're talking about is traction rather than anything else. And if that's the case, then this bodes very well for places like Monza and other circuits which are very power sensitive. the Ferrari being able to at least keep its tyres and keep the traction. So yeah, that's good news. Lap 40, Sebastian Vettel came together with somebody. Anyway, and again, unreal, really. I think it was Gasly. I'm not so sure, but he was left absolutely no room whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those really weird things, right? Because like Gasly knows, and this is not the first time he's made this mistake in the season. He made the mistake, exactly the same mistake at the last race. He's made the same mistake at least 3 other races this season. I don't understand what this kid's on. Ego is my fucking thoughts on it, and I don't like it at all. And I do think that Red Bull really need to get their shit together to discipline this kid before he just goes on and starts becoming like the total aggressor or bully boy in the sport. Because if he's going to start relying on a reputation that he's going to run people off the road, right? Well, he can't intimidate the top drivers, so he's not going to move forward in the back. And I'm really quite disgusted that nobody said anything about this, least of all Christian Horner or what's his name, the old geezer with the wonky eye.
Helmut Marko.
Goebbels.
Yeah,
Marco.
Goebbels.
Helmut Marko. Yeah, that was the one. Helmut Marko. No. Okay. Moving on. In the pit lane, lap 50. Of course, once Max had pitted, then it was a sure thing that Leclerc was going to pit. Indeed, he did pit. Called him up quite quickly. And by lap 53, they were side by side again. And again, able to drive through the corners together. Why? Because they just didn't challenge. They didn't go side by side at the apex. That's why. Why? Because they both knew that the other would run them off the track if they did. Right? So.
Well, yeah. I mean,
you know.
Okay,
just
no,
saying,
go ahead.
Just saying.
Yeah, yes.
Lap 57, Sainz, unfortunately, having started to really reel in Verstappen as well and looking certain for second place, unfortunately, his engine let go. Probably an electric problem, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, started a very nasty-looking electrical fire. And basically, yeah, he struggled to get out of the car at first because because of course the car was on a hill, and this meant that he couldn't get out. And by the time he stopped, of course, the fire then started spreading much quicker because these things are very hot, and they're on the edge of cooling clearly. And the marshals just weren't quick enough to get to his car to stop it rolling back down the hill, so he could get out. Although I have, for the life of me, don't realise why he just didn't turn the fucking wheel. I mean, literally, that's all it would have taken. But anyway, there you go. He didn't. He just kept it in a straight line and waited for the marshals to come over. And the boys are all right, of course. He's used to a hot day coming from Spain, so no big deals, right? But the marshal's very slow to act on that case. And then George Russell having a little tussle with Alonso, was it? Or Ocon? I think it was Alonso, I'm not certain. Although a nice little pass. And then, of course, Charles Leclerc on the last 3 laps of the race, suffering some sort of throttle issue, where they were saying his throttle wouldn't return to 0. And easily managed to overcome that, only losing maybe 0.3 off the lap. Dealing with the problem very well to give him a victory, and of course allowing us a bit more stress right at the end of the race. Being a Tifosi like I am, I didn't appreciate that, Charles. Okay, wonderful. And that is my race result, and here are that is my race review, and here are the results. The results, of course, are Charles Leclerc in first place, a fantastic drive. Glad to see him chopping the points back by 6. On a Verstappen who came second, only 6, unfortunately. Might be 7, 18, 25, 7. Third place. Third place, a fantastic Sir Lewis Hamilton in third place. A fantastic recovery drive, a superb drive, probably the best manoeuvres in Austria since 1945. Okay, George Russell in fourth place, a fantastic finish for Mercedes, considering They're really struggling to come back. They clearly haven't got the pace of the top two teams, but clearly have overtaken the midfield now and have pulled away from the midfield. Fantastic. Fifth place, of course, comes after fourth place, and fifth place a superb fifth place by Esteban Ocon, and he is doing extremely well this season, having a very consistent run, and that's what can we say? The kid's doing extremely well. He's really proving his point, and he's outperforming Alonso. So that just goes to show you that he's really got his shite together. Mick Schumacher in sixth place, a fantastic sixth place for Mick Schumacher, who in the end managed to keep his tyres in to really move up the grid. Seventh place. Lando Norris basically got off to a good start, and that allowed him to at least keep his position. Kevin Magnussen, a little unlucky at the end there. He drove a fantastic race. Should have been up there in fifth place, but unfortunately dropped back. At ninth place is Daniel Ricciardo, finally coming in just behind Norris and getting his season together, feeling happier with the car. 10th place, Alonso. 11th place. Oh, Alonso, by the way, is fantastic. Valtteri Bottas in 11th place. A really good result for him too, considering that car is off the pace finally. They haven't been able to bring any updates for the last 5 or 6 races. Alex Albon showing that again he's a consistent race driver that can outperform his car. 13th place is Lance Stroll. Again, this kid's got some consistency, although that car is of course slow. Jean Yu again started really fast as usual, but dropped back. 15th place is Esteban Ocon. That's not quite right, is it? So it doesn't look like Esteban Ocon, Peter.
No.
That's no. Something's fucked up here.
I mixed up my French people.
When you say you spend 10 hours sometimes doing these graphics before the show, I think maybe you need a few more, maybe 12 hours, something like that.
I'll do that.
16th place, thank you very much. 16th place, the teammate Yuki Tsunoda, bringing the car home roughly where it is. There we go. Gasly, of course, involved in an incident early on in the race, which stopped it from getting any higher. That car is does seem to have some problems on particular circuits. 17th place, the unforgettable and Sebastian Vettel, who literally was taken out by Gasly at one point and would have finished considerably higher up again. Been unlucky. He had a very interesting weekend as well, having a disagreement with the FIA, complaining, and I quote, saying something like, "You bunch of fucking shitters. This is all shit. I'm fucking off, you wankers." Now, I think he said it in a different language, so that's not word for word translation, but you get the idea. He was very unhappy with the stewarding at the last race, and also some of the decisions that were taken at this race. So there we go. As a result, the FIA are looking at it. He was fined for that lovely sentence, 25,000, although they're going to suspend it because they don't want to piss him off too much. Carlos Sainz did not finish, unfortunately, again out with a raging fire, and it's good to see he's got a fire, but it's just in the wrong place. 19th place, another did not finish, of course. Nicholas Latifi and Sergio Perez did not finish. Why did Sergio Perez not finish?
I think they retired him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he hit someone, that's right, didn't he?
He crashed.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Early on.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah. Bad driving by Sergio Perez. We don't give a fuck. And good. He didn't finish the race because they wanted to save the engine. Okay, that's my race roundup. Perfectly diplomatic, fair, no biases, right? No biases. But I'm just saying, 1945, 1966, we won. Okay, thank you so much, Fabio. What did you make of the very interesting race that was? I mean, I didn't mention the sprint race at all.
Yeah,
it was just fucking boring. That's why. Okay.
It was. No, I mean, it
was. Race was very much like the First World War. Carry on, Fabio. Sorry, I had to get another joke in there about the war.
Yeah. No, it was a very good weekend. I mean, qualifying were gripping in 4 cars in a tenth of a second. The sprint race was, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only good thing they came from Sainz and Leclerc, battling each other a little bit, and Mick Schumacher again made a very nice sprint race. He wasn't satisfied at all. Because he thought he might have done better, but anyway, the race was brilliant. Red Bull had not the pace. It wasn't the fastest car, and it showed. Leclerc managed to win the race with a very gripping finale because of the problems he had at the gas pedal. We still don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen. I haven't seen any news if it was a mechanical problem or if it was the TPS, the throttle position system sensor, which went just south. But lo and behold, he made the last 4 or 5 laps, I think, with the throttle, which wasn't going back to zero. It was stuck at 20% in best case scenario, and it's not a good feeling to have, especially in low corners. The car is pushing you away, so it was tricky. Too bad for Carlos. The engine exploded. There were shards of metal flying off the car, and a big oomph. Let me just say before I go on, talking about the drivers. I think, and again, I'm happy to say that because we've been saying that for years. The FIA must set up professional stewards, period. They have to travel with the circus in all the circuit and have to be at least in every position where the stewards are. There has to be a professional one, because what we saw with Carlos was, it was good that nothing happened because it might have been tragic, But it was like watching a Ben Hill sketch. The guy coming in with the extinguisher, then putting down and running back to take whatever the fuck maybe he forgot the beer or the Wurstel on the stove. I don't know. The other guy tried to put that is not professional. That is not good at all. Anyway, back to the race.
Sorry, you mean the marshals there? We need professional marshals.
Yes. Says stewards. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Marshals. Yeah. Well, there's something to say about the stewards too, but I'll go to that later on.
Okay. We've got a comment which I want to bring up when you do. Go ahead.
Yeah. So back to the race. It was fantastic. Leclerc managed to win the race by passing Verstappen 3 times. And even if, the last 2 times they had a difference with the tire, the first overtake was the key one, because they were both on the same tire. The tire were exactly the same age, same laps, same everything, and he just passed him. And so that was the key of the race. After that, he was never able to do that. Red Bull complained that they had, some weird degradation of the tires they could not explain, and say, well, maybe the last, tires were better. I think it's bullshit because, they never performed well with the tires, even in the last stint. The reason he managed to get back to Leclerc was because, the poor chap was running. He had to take the feet off the pedal and use the other feet, to bring it up. So it was really, really, really stressful. So that was.
Just want to say one thing about that first stint, if I may, which is this, that again noticeable, right? That Leclerc was heavily pressurizing Max.
Yes.
And what I think here, right, is that Max, like I've said before, right, his weakness is when he's pressured from behind, he can make mistakes, And I think he made another mistake here.
Yeah.
By going beyond the tires and wearing them out. I don't think it's anything to do with a weird set of tires or I think it's just Max overdriving in order to not let Leclerc have a sniff even. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I agree with that. There is also another thing which happened last Sunday, which doesn't usually happen. Because, again, the first thing they were on medium tires. And Red Bull has shown that they can eat the medium tires and use the medium tires usually better than Ferrari does. Ferrari had a little bit of advantage with the hard tires, but that wasn't, as much of an advantage as the Red Bull had with the medium tires. And most of the advantage from Red Bull came from the fact that they were able to eat them up faster than Ferrari, which did not happen yesterday. So that was peculiar. And yeah, so on top of what you said, which is true, I think there was also, so basically what I'm trying to say is that Leclerc was actually in a position to actually push Verstappen, right? So yeah, it was just a sum of those factors. Other drivers, before I forget, fantastic Mick Schumacher. I loved it. He was really mean and bad in a good way in the sprint race, and also in the race on Sunday. Magnussen, I think, is the most underrated driver in the circus right now. Period. There is no question in my mind, because that guy delivers every fucking time. He's hard to pass. He's a good driver, and he's totally underrated. So, if I were asked, I would cling to that guy with all my, with whatever I've got, because he is a really, really, really good driver, and the car is good too. There were rumors that they were trying a new hybrid setup, which was delivered from Ferrari to us. Which, if that's true, it's a good thing, because those cars were blazing fast, like proper fast cars.
Yeah.
So if that new system works, it will eventually be transferred to Ferrari. And the hybrid system is one of the few, if not the only area where you can actually develop stuff. So that was a good thing. Other drivers. A good race from Lando Norris. It was a good race from Lewis, although it must be said that he got third because of Sainz and Perez wasn't ahead.
100%.
But
I thought it was an average race by Lewis. That is a good race by his standards, right?
The reason I say it was a good race, and actually I agree with you. It wasn't that a fantastic race, because I was expecting him to be a little bit closer, especially because of the fact that everybody were having issues with the tires, and he's very good at managing tires. And he wasn't that good compared to anybody else. He didn't shine in that aspect. So yeah, I agree with you. He got third. He raced the race. Mercedes is still in the same position as it was 2 or 3 races ago, I think, 41 seconds. The gap is there.
He's still there, still top of the midfield, and no higher than that. Yeah. I just wanted to say one thing quickly, which is I really appreciate that Lewis was back on form again. I'm hoping, and I'm expecting to hear some team radio of Lewis in the car just whinging the fuck about anything but the car, because he was back to his 7 times world championship form and actually just being really consistent in that car.
Something has switched in his brain, for sure, and now the fact that he's consistently ahead of Russell, it shows. Shows that. So
I heard that they'd done a remodel of the car completely around Lewis.
Yeah, well, anyway,
I think that's the reason why he's got that few tenths on Russell. Again, showing how great Russell is, that they can change the car completely. We don't hear a peep from him, and he's still fast. So
Well, I mean, no, the guy can adapt to the car. I mean,
the,
it showed last
the guy's
year.
going to be a world champion. He's the only next world champion that I'm looking at. Leclerc, obviously, but future world champion. Just the same thing we said about Max Verstappen in his second and third year. Yeah, he will. Once he sorts out these little errors and his driving style problems, he's going to be world champion. And the same thing for Russell, except he doesn't need to sort anything out. As soon as they give him a car capable of winning, he will be winning.
Yeah, and I mean that is the big if, that everybody. Oh yeah. I mean, but that is valid for everybody. I'm not punching Russell.
I'm not sure it is actually.
No. The fact that
everybody.
you
have to have that consistency.
No. I'm just saying the fact that you have to show yourself when you have a proper, competitive car. That because that extra step is not something. It is not to be. It's not that common that you can adapt to that extra step. If you get what I mean.
I see. I see what you mean. So when you're given a faster car, you can consistently drive it faster, like the slower cars.
Right. Yeah. So, but
exactly.
Anyway, I mean,
although I might include Magnussen with that as well. If someone were to give Magnussen a decent car, like if he got a Ferrari drive or something, I think he would be challenging as well.
Anyway, I mean, Russell is I mean, the signs are all there. So for Russell, so yeah. Again, sorry, before I forget, I got to mention.
Is that a Freudian slip? Sorry, is that a Freudian slip to say the signs are all there for Russell? That's a Freudian slip, you see. Okay, maybe Russell would be moving to Ferrari. I
actually meant the signs. S-I-G-N-S.
Oh, the signs.
Yeah,
okay, beg your pardon.
Anyway.
Okay, moving on.
Again, very good race by Lando Norris with a car which I don't see that it has improved any. I think he has made a very good race. Special commendation would be for Alonso, which started from the back of the grid and got points. And another special commendation for Bottas, which started from the pit lane and he got 11th, and he was overtaken by Alonso in the last lap. It's really a shame that they were fighting for the 10th position, because I think that both of them would have deserved points just for the race of it. Fantastic race from those two not so young guys. What else? You were talking before about the stewards and the FIA. So yeah, I mean, one of the reason why Vettel was fined was basically
hang on.
because
Before you go,
yes,
just want to get your comments on this to start us down
Please.
that road. Wasn't there something with Alonso insisting that the rules should be applied to everybody equally?
Right.
Bringing that up before this last race. Right.
No, yeah, thank you very much, Babelus. I was going exactly there. So the reason why Vettel was penalized, was given 25,000 euros fine, which is suspended, the stuff, was basically because during the drivers' meeting before the race, they started complaining about stuff. And so he got out and said, I've been talking about this shit for 15 years. I've got enough. This is a sign of a big problem that there is in F1 right now. And I'm going directly to your question, Bob Elvis, even if it seems I'm coming from a weird angle. Since last year, remember Masi, they decided to have two head stewards, and they're cycling every race. So one race you have, I can't remember the names of two guys for the sake of me, but it's two guys, and they change every other race. So one of the problems that there was during that drivers' meeting is that when the driver they go back to the to the meeting, they want to talk about what happened in the previous race. Right, and that this is what Alonso wants to do. I mean, said, listen, this happened to me, and these other happened to me. Now the thing is that by doing that switcheroo every time, every race, you basically talking with the people about the race with the people that wasn't there, right? So, and that is a big problem because first of all, the drivers cannot complain or clarify problems which happened the previous race because obviously they're talking to somebody who says, "Hey, I wasn't there," and which is true. He wasn't literally there. He was. And also, there is a big problem of consistency of applying the rules, which is it's super weird because that was the main issue last year with one guy. And what did they do to solve it? They put two guys and they make one race the guy, one race the other guy, one race the guy, one race the other guy. So I think it's totally mental. I have no idea what possessed them, but this is what happens, and people is pissed off. Other things to mention about the race: the sensors that they put on the track for the track limits. A lot of people got warnings, and it was particularly bad in the F2 race. Which was, the result was changed after the end of it because, people got 5 seconds penalty. And again, I mean, it's the usual problem with those tracks. And by the way, good fucking luck next race in France where you have bloody, I don't know, parking lots outside the track. But it's a mess, and I still maintain the fact that the only solution is to put gravel. There is no other way around, because they tried in Spielberg, in the A1, they tried, especially corner number 10 and corner number, I can't remember, but 10 was particularly sensible about that thing, and they tried a couple of years ago. They made extra curbs, higher curbs, and the result was everybody was going on there and destroying all the bottom of the car. And then they put those kind of sausages, and the result was that people was flying over them. And now they're putting those sensors, and the problem with the sensors is not the fact that they're wrong per se. The problem is that you should look at the race and look at not the camera car, but the helmet camera. So you can realize exactly what the fuck they're able to see of the car outside. If you're lucky, you can basically see the inside of the wall of the tire, where the Pirelli is written there, and that's it. It's impossible from inside the car to judge if you are, 10 centimeters or 12 centimeters inside or outside, the track. And so that is a big problem. That was one of the things that Lewis was complaining in the race too. They told him, "Oh, you got a warning." I said, "That's bullshit. I didn't do it." Actually, he did. But the problem is that you cannot possibly tell from inside your car. So basically, you're driving, you're trying to push the limit, and you have no way to realize how close you are to the limit because you can't see it. 2 centimeters or 10 centimeters inside, you can't possibly tell. It's very difficult to say. So you try to push the limit, and then you're outside, and you don't know when you went outside, how you went outside, because they tell you later on. So you just have lost
one slight correction, if you don't mind. That's Sir Lewis Hamilton, by the way.
Oh yeah. The vegetarianism, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, fantastic. I just want to go through a couple of comments quickly, if you wouldn't mind. Bubba Elvis says, although I'm a Verstappen fan, boo. I really like Russell and Leclerc giving it all. We do too, absolutely. And if I'm to be fair, I think Verstappen was somewhat unlucky really in this race because
fuck off. Really?
No, yeah, I think he was actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the reason was because clearly, to my mind anyway, Red Bull realised they have a problem with tyre wear, and so they're trying to put more wing on in order to preserve the tyres. Okay, unfortunately, Ferrari just have a better chassis and therefore don't have to put so much wing on and can get the top speed out of the car. And I think that's where the real game is being played. And I have a feeling that once we get to, shall we say, other tracks which are higher downforce, that is going to disappear again. And actually, it's tyre warm up that will come to the front. So I think they should be trusting, just like Mercedes took several races to go, okay, we're just going to have to take downforce off because we got too much porpoising. Eventually they did, and Russell started getting the results. All right, so yeah, it puts more stress on the drivers, but again, we're talking about top drivers. Why they don't do it, I don't know. Carry on. Am I completely fucked up about that?
I mean, I have to strongly disagree about the fact that it was unlucky, because I mean, it was unlucky and he got second while he was supposed to get third. So fuck you, right?
Yeah.
And about
I
the
didn't mean it from that point of view. I mean,
no, yeah, but I got it from that point of view. So.
Yeah, okay. Hands up. You win. I surrender.
No. I mean, so there are other drivers that when they got unlucky, their car just explodes. And this guy has been unlucky and he got second. Yeah, fuck off. I mean, that reminds me of Lewis Hamilton, if you don't mind me saying that, last year, where it was unlucky
one correction. One correction. I think you'll find that Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Celery Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, I always forgot that. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but you were saying something about Red Bull. Now, my opinion is that what we saw this race and the previous race, and I'm referring specifically not too much to the fact that it seems to be that they haven't got the pace they used to, but the fact that they had problems with eating tires and all this stuff. I think they have an issue. They might have an issue with the parts that they're bringing, with development of the car.
Interesting.
I have the suspicion that they went in a direction that it's not getting the results they wanted to get. Marco has already complained, and again, I can't believe I'm citing Helmut Marko, but fuck it, the guy said that the development just made the car heavier, 10 kilograms, and that's why he blamed that on the fact that it's lacking traction. Of course, it's Helmut Marko, it's bullshit, but there is one thing that you can take from that bullshit is the fact that they brought a lot of development. And again, I might be wrong, but if I look at the behavior of the cars last Sunday and the previous race, and especially the behavior of the car of Perez, I think that they got into some kind of weird direction with the development, which is not bringing the results they think, and they actually made the car way more unbalanced. Verstappen was complaining about the fact that he was losing, the front one lap, and then was losing the rear the other lap.
Yeah,
that is mental, because when you have a car like that, you're just fucked.
Yeah, what can you do?
It's much the same situation I think that Mercedes is in right now. If you see the way that both Lewis and Russell snapped out of the track and they crashed into the barriers. By the way, big shout out to the Mercedes mechanics. Big shout out.
2 cars in qualifying and they still managed to get to the sprint.
But the way they got out, they snapped, immediately.
Yeah,
it was
rear end,
understeer, and then they just overcorrected and they went off. And I think the same thing, it's kind of happening to Red Bull. So that might be, if that's true, that might be super interesting, because one thing that Ferrari seems to have done right is actually the development of the car. They still have issues with reliability, of course, but the general development of the efficiency of the car seems to be, now way superior than Red Bull. Yesterday I saw a car which was faster, more balanced, more traction, more top speed. I mean, it was the faster car.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to say one thing on that, which is the highest paid person in Red Bull, other than the, Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, is of course Adrian Newey. So no wonder they're trying to bring out upgrades to sort problems out rather than letting their drivers dictate what's going on. However, that's not to say that I think from the beginning it seemed pretty apparent that the chassis characteristics of both cars, which obviously can't be changed, it seemed to me that Ferrari is much lighter on its tyres, and therefore, as towards the end of stints, Ferrari do seem to get an advantage. And when they're at least equal pace at the beginning of a stint, then clearly they're going to be the dominant car that weekend. And I think that was the case this weekend. The upgrades, as you say, that Adrian Newey brought in probably are not helping. They're probably lighter, but they're not really helping with tyre wear. And that's the issue for me.
It seems to me, it's not so much of a tire wear. I think it's they are not able to run the same setup that they were able to run at the beginning of the season, where they were able to eat the tires properly in just one lap, and gain 2-3 seconds advantage in 2 laps, and then fucking goodbye. So the fact that they're not able to run those setups again. It's I think it's problematic.
I don't think it's that. It's just anyway. Let's not round about it. But no, absolutely. Okay, Charles Leclerc managing the faulty gas pedal. He said he was genuinely afraid. Well done, Charles. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's one thing. I mean, he showed this at Silverstone that he had huge cojones, and he keeps doing it. He keeps doing it. He's like a regular fucking F1 Valentino. He really is. But
this
there
guy
you go.
is a fucking legend. If I can say so.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think there is only one thing which is scarier than having and I'm not really sure about it, by the way. But having the gas pedal which doesn't get back, or having the brakes which do not work. I don't know what is scarier.
Yeah.
I really don't know. But they're both things that, I mean,
bearing in mind, he's still driving 10/10s.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He didn't back off at all. I mean, there wasn't even a second where he was going, hang on a minute, guys, don't get me on the radio. This is tough. No. He's still talking on the radio, telling the team about what's going on. The team aren't helping. Right, the team aren't helping. Going, hang on a minute, we'll look at that, and then come back with, this is what's going on.
Yeah,
no, he already knows that because he's having to pull the fucking pedal back with his feet.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have lost a lot more time. Okay, so anyway.
I mean, the car
amazing.
is refusing to downshift. Yeah, because the pedal is on. So it can't figure out if you're braking or out of the corners. I mean, it's mental.
Okay. Moving on, he says, Fabio, always thank you again for these comments. We really appreciate them. Although Leclerc is coming closer to Verstappen, we lost 2 competitors for the World Championship this race, Perez and Sainz.
I don't think that Perez was never a contender, because in Red Bull they're very, strict about that. Sainz maybe now it's time for them to make a choice. Can I just say one thing?
I think Leclerc hopes they will.
Okay, but can I just say one thing I forgot to mention last race in Silverstone, where and again, can I point out that the last 2 races Ferrari won, because sometimes we forget about that, what they won in Silverstone too. I was reminded of when Schumacher got the accident and Eddie Irvine lost the championship by 1 point.
Oh, yeah.
So it is not a stretch of an imagination to say that, listen, the fact that Sainz won the race and there were no clear orders up to that point, okay, it can be... Well, I would say justified, but it can also be seen by the fact, that, there was not clear. I mean, if you look at the drivers, right, we all agree. But if you look at the points, there were pretty much both on par, for the same result. So yeah, I mean, just putting that there, 'cause-
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so. I mean, I think you're right. We lost Sainz and definitely Perez. I don't think Perez was ever really in the running unless Max starts crashing. But nonetheless, I don't really think. I think now a Ferrari will revert to type and say, no, come on, we need to really get behind Leclerc. I don't know what happened at Silverstone still. Yes, I agree with what you said, Fabio. Your logic made perfect sense. And I dare say that was the pragmatic thing to do.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it in that.
Oh no.
I just don't understand it. That's all I'm saying.
No,
because
listen,
I just think, well, hang on. The first car normally gets that's the right tactics is to pit the first car first. Normally
it was super stupid. I stand by what I said last Monday.
Yeah.
I
think you were right. Yeah, I think you were right.
It was
just
wrong,
by the way,
because of all the things, and track position and stuff like that. I was just putting that there because somebody mentioned to me, and I said, okay,
yes.
I'll just refer. It
No,
might be.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. You're right. And if anybody wants to just go back and check out that video where Fabio said that, then that will be in the playlist. So no problem there. Also, just a quick shout out to Raid Shadow Legends as well, and NordVPN, who aren't sponsoring us.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. Right. So thank you, Van. The last comment by Bub for the moment, anyway. Thank you. Maybe put some green soap behind the curbs, and then you don't need sensors.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't think the motorbikes would like it too much, but
that's the problem. Yeah.
I do think that it's a great solution. And they kind of were doing that, right, by putting AstroTurf down for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is the AstroTurf never stayed down.
No.
So it's kind of weird. But no, I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Is if you could stop them driving there, but the only way you actually stop them driving there is by doing something dangerous and saying, well, if you drive there, there's these huge consequences. Yeah. And that's why I think your solution, Fabio, is saying, hang on a minute, we've had this problem before. We solved it with gravel traps. They slow the car down super quick. They're safer, but because they slow the car down so quickly, then obviously nobody wants to drive on them. So, and I agree with you. That's got to be the thing. One of the problems, though, one of the reasons why gravel traps were removed from circuits was because of bikes as well. So this is limiting. This is limiting the circuits.
Yeah, I mean they would have to put the gravel traps, take it away, put tarmac with the bikes. It's gonna be mental. But
yeah, absolutely. So I don't know what you do, but maybe just specifically keeping tracks for Formula One only cars. But then then you how do you justify charging the track so much money to have a Formula One race if they can't put on other world championships and get money that way? So I don't know. I don't know. Thank you very much, Bub, by the way, for for the like. I don't think you're still there, but if you are, great. Thank you for the comments. Okay, I think that's our roundup done and our little chat. Is there anything else you wish to say?
No. I think I'm fine. I think we can bring the Nazi.
Pit Lane Peter. Lane Peter, who we sent to the Austrian Outback, and there he is. Pit Lane Peter in the Outback. Thank you so much, Peter. How did you find the Austrian Grand Prix? How have the animals over there? I take it you've been staying in the meadows and the, what do they call them? The down vales. Who's that? That looks like.
It's not an animal. It's a guy who followed me down from the track. He was sitting in the grass next to the track, and he's still sitting there. I have no clue what he's doing. It's got a red suit on, I think. So he must be someone important.
It's something that the Spanish do when they're out of the race.
Oh, it's the Spanish.
Sit down.
And to be fair, I mean you can see it when I so there's a lot of I have my tent set up here on the mountain because there's a lot of room to just I think they call it Lebensraum or something here in Austria. I don't know. They have a weird way of speaking.
I'm not German, Peter.
No,
so I really don't know.
No, yeah, well, they keep every single time I get back to my tent, I meet the Austrians on the way up here, and they all say "Grüß Gott," which means "greet God," and I keep telling them I'm not going up that high, but for some reason they keep doing it.
No.
But yeah, it was.
You should consider yourself lucky that you met the Austrian and not that Max Verstappen fans. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I've heard that
We're getting to those.
Yeah.
We're getting to those because I have a few shots. Before we get there, I apparently Alfa Romeo is following this show because we talked about Zhu's accident. And you, Fabio, pointed out that they've got a different roll bar than the other cars do. They have a pillar instead of an actual roll bar.
Yeah.
And they put out a statement today that it worked as it should, but the forces exceeded the forces that they test them on extremely. And It appears they cut a groove 4 to 5 centimeters deep in the asphalt when he flipped over. So, but they're happy it worked.
It was scary to watch.
It was.
That's what I'm saying. So the only thing is because their one is so different from all the other ones. I think that the FIA should either revisit the numbers or retest that kind of stuff because, I mean, I have no doubts that it worked the way that the rules said. But if that's the case, they've got to take a good look at the rules back again because I mean
They exceeded the force a lot according to Alfa Romeo, and they've confirmed that with the FIA as well. So. It seems it worked.
Okay.
I mean, he got out alive. And one of the things that surprised me is when Zhu got back from the hospital, the first question he had is, what are we going to do for setup and stuff for the next race? That was literally his first question when he got back into the pits, which...
Not always a good thing, considering he thought the next race was, in fact, Silverstone. So...
so are we now going to talk about the British? I mean, we can talk about the British
If you like.
I mean,
Sir Lewis Hamilton.
You're
place again.
No, I was going to refer to your bonus this year. You're going to get a 650 pound bonus this year.
6 pie bonus.
No, £6.50.
Okay.
You haven't seen the news?
It's very kind of you.
No, you haven't seen
I
the
haven't
news?
seen the news, Peter.
Ah.
I didn't realise you were setting up a joke, but now
Yeah,
I do.
I mean,
What? Hang on.
Who
Let me
was
set it
it?
up even better for you, if I may.
Who
I
was the old guy who used to be somebody in Formula One? Remind me. There was this guy, Ecclestone.
The old guy, yeah.
Yeah.
He's quite old, yeah.
Yeah, he's under investigation
Tim
for
Clark.
he's under
Stewart.
investigation for not paying his taxes. £400 million of taxes. So I did the division, and because obviously the rest of Britain paid those taxes, and so you're going to get back £6.50.
Thank you so much.
So-
Very kind of you. Are they forgetting that he donated $1 million to the Labour Party?
Mhm.
Obviously they are. Anyway, moving on.
Oh, since we're on
£6.50
parties,
Yes.
what do you think about the new replacement high up in the British government? They finally,
I think it's absolutely hysterical.
yeah, they finally got it from Formula One because we have a replacement that always works. So, we on Twitter. This is what we saw. Nico Hulkenberg replaces Boris Johnson.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's only for one session though.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
It probably for one race. I don't know. I have no clue. Speaking about races, Sir Lewis Hamilton didn't have his race engineer. And what do you think?
No.
No, the replacement.
Oh, it's tragic.
We have
Bono wasn't there.
Yeah, we have
Where's Bono? Are you all right there, Bono?
This was the replacement. They put Roscoe there. Apparently, I didn't
Brilliant.
hear him a lot during the race, but apparently he did a good job. Yeah, another thing that I wanted to point out is Alonso, who was really, really disappointed because when he came to the track, he was wearing his summer dress and it rained, so he had to put his trousers on underneath.
Oh.
And then
I bet he's got nice legs, though.
probably short, but they're probably nice. They look very, very short wearing a dress. So then, the Ferrari strategy for Sainz. Maybe we got Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, and Plan E during the race. I mean, what are you gonna do? And no one knows what the plans are until we finally found out. Plan E is explode. So apparently that's how they do it. Haas is doing very well, right? I mean, you can't deny that they're coming. So they've updated their website, which is now this: Top Gun, Haas F1 team. I think they stole that somewhere.
Nice.
And
yeah, that's good.
Do we need to talk about the Dutch? Because you know why there are a lot of Dutch during this race, right?
Well, because it's Austria.
No.
And they like to go and see the birthplace of Hitler?
No. They like free stuff. So they told the Dutch that if they came over to watch the race, which this time it was sponsored by Rolex, they would all get a free Rolex. And so they did. Just
Nice.
signs. They took all the Rolex.
Fuck me.
Fuck me,
I mean-
Jesus.
If you look at the black one there, it says Uzi on it. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, what's even more interesting is if you look at how they got there. So they charter buses, but they don't only charter buses. They will have.
No.
They will have.
Panzer tanks.
Yeah, no. Well, look.
No, Mikey, no.
That was so not right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that they forget and bygones are bygones.
Absolutely.
You
Otherwise, they'd still be harking back to 1945.
Yes. Well, and you mentioned Vettel getting this big fine. I think he can
Vettel?
still Vettel.
Oh, Vettel. I thought you said Vettel.
No, Vettel.
Okay.
Okay, so he
Vettel.
yes. And
Vettel, you mean Vettel.
I think he's saving up because whatever he's doing, I think he's got the same hairdresser Trump has. I mean, look at that. I mean,
I like him more and more. I have to say,
Yes.
the more it goes on, the more I like him.
I have
I
no
agree.
clue what is going on with this.
Same thing for me. Same for me with Alonso. I don't know what the fuck it is. You know, it seems to me the more they go on, the more I like them. Yeah.
I mean, and then
Bob Elvis says, I love those memes from Peter. Yep, they're fantastic, aren't they?
thank you, Babel.
Okay.
And so the last thing, and it's I know both of you are tifosi, but someone managed to take a picture
Si.
of Carlos Sainz's
Miliare
car.
grazie.
So, and I have to say, I would put that on a wall as a work of art. Look at that. That is a close
That's
up.
fantastic. And you
I mean-
can see that it was just an electrical problem.
Yeah.
Definitely electrical.
You sure it wasn't hydraulics? It looks like oil stains.
it's
No.
electrical.
It looked like
No,
oil.
I can see that's a Ferrari, not a Red Bull.
Okay. Well, so yeah, that was it for this week.
Fantastic. Oh,
So-
fantastic, Peter. That was a great little roundup. Okay, not actual Rolex. Geo Sam says, good hair from Nico Hulkenberg. Bob Elvis says, yeah, he's always been a handsome little bugger. I'll tell you that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And Geo Sam says, Vettel, the F1 racer. Remember him? Yeah, he did well. Again, I think it's good, right? Because there was another thing as well which happened. Okay, this is the stewards again, just showing inconsistency. All three of the drivers, right? All three of the top three drivers were attended by their physios, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Be after the race and
Yeah.
before they were weighed, and that's against the rules.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they were all basically they were all just verbally warned. Okay, but that is a breach of Parc Fermé rules, and as such, penalties should have been given out of some sort. I was expecting to see
They have
all
been.
of them get a 3-place grid penalty for the next race.
Oh, they
And
they
no,
got
apparently not.
they got suspended fines. All
No,
of
it's
them.
a
No,
it's
they
a
got
it's
they
a
got
monetary
actually
fine.
monetary fine.
Yeah,
I mean-
monetary fines. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
nothing.
I mean the rationale for that rule though it's kind of bizarre. I mean I can understand it in minor leagues, but in F1, so the rationale in F1 is because they they can't have people giving them stuff before they get weighed because the way that they can make because you weigh the car and the driver, that's the sum of it. So, but I mean, there is like a million cameras pointed at them. So,
Yeah.
so
I,
Well, nonetheless,
I think
I mean-
no, yeah, I agree. The rationale
I
is
th-
kind of
I
fine.
think Fabio, you're a little bit wrong because we've seen it. They've raised the budget for all the teams. But what is the FIA going to do? They can't raise their budget
No,
due
okay.
to the inflation. So what they do is they give out fines and then they raise their budget that way. That's how they do it. I mean, they're Americans.
So, well, if you want to make a critique to what I said, you can say that it is true that they have a million cameras, but the director is shit anyway. Apparently, with a million camera, they're not able to get what actually is fucking happening on the track, but they got to go to replays and all that shit. So yeah, I mean, I will get that critique easily. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that's a very good point. I'm just
I
surprised.
mean,
Again,
Sainz car was fucking on fire.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was fucking on fire, and they went back to the to the pit, to see the guy. Yeah. I mean, listen, I want to see what the fuck is happening to that guy. Right. I mean, it is catching fire, and the car is rolling back. I mean, is there something more interesting than that?
Well,
Happening right
I
now.
can I can make it even worse. So I look at when I watch the race, I watch on the Formula One website. So I have a subscription to F1, and then I can choose to have either the F1 coverage, or I can choose for international, which gives me the Sky coverage. That coverage is abysmal because when the crash with Zhu happened, they went back to I forget the guy who was there at the in the pits with the wall, the video wall, and you heard his comment. You heard him go through all the things that was happening on screen, and all we saw was pictures from the pits, people walking past. Meanwhile, this guy, and look at this. There he get, and now you can see what is happening. He's touching the curbs. There wasn't any footage of it. Nothing. It's
Yeah.
it's horrible. But
Yeah, it's
Yeah, well, until they find out whether the driver's okay, they tend not to try
no.
and
This
show pictures
this had
anymore.
nothing to do with the
Because-
driver. This was the Sky has that thing where they have the big video wall where they can if there's no footage coming from the track, they can go to there and then have some explanations about things that happened on track. Doesn't come through on F1 at all. Apparently there's a switch being made within Sky where they go to a different guy on screen. Doesn't go through on F1. You keep seeing the same.
I
Yes,
only have to say
realise
that.
It's
I
because of
only
the
have to
adverts.
Yeah, I only have to say that Sky Italy, on that matter, they're making a fucking excellent job. They try to cover. I mean, when that things happen, they try to switch to their own cameras and stuff
Yes.
like that.
As
And they're mental about it. Every race
Well-
they're just mental about direction of how the race was done. So they try to.
They do the
put
same.
stuff, in between. They have picture in picture, but it's great.
Sky UK does the same thing. The problem with F1 is they will give you the commentary from Sky and they will give you the video feed from Formula One, who isn't switching to the Sky people that are behind in the paddock standing in front of a big video screen, but you will hear the sound. And that is something that I think they need to address because that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, they don't want to get their a commentary team together, though, do they? So they just say, okay, well, look, we'll give you rights if we can have your broadcast feed.
Yeah.
But you get the
which is
choice.
okay.
But you get the choice between the F1 coverage or the international coverage, which is Sky in the UK.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
you should show their footage as well. Which, I mean,
No, because of the adverts.
there are no
Like
adverts.
I've said. I know. That's because they're not taking the feed directly from Sky. They're taking the feed from F1, and they're just putting the commentary over.
Yeah.
If you notice, when there's an advert on Sky on F1, there's no commentary. It just goes quiet, and you get the camera feeds with the microphones.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, again, this was standard, like back in the Eurosport days with the BBC. Right, Eurosport just wouldn't have. I mean, you could have the choice of the different feeds if you wanted, but every time if it was a feed from an advertising company, you just wouldn't get any of the adverts, but you'd still get the audio coming through, right? Or with Eurosport, you could just literally have no commentary at all,
Mm-hmm.
So
And just the feed, yeah.
and just the feed, yeah, which is what we used to watch, and then we'd sit there and record our own commentary over it. Back in the day. Fucking funny. I'll never forget the time when I think it was Barrichello at Ferrari, right? And it was at the test, right? And he kept spinning out, and he spun out for the third time. And I said, and there he goes, Barrichello spinning out again. I don't know what car he thought he was driving. Well, I do, because he signed for Ferrari. So presumably he knew he was driving a Ferrari. But nonetheless, there he goes, spinning out again. Anyway.
What the fuck?
I know.
Okay.
He doesn't know what car he's driving. Well, he does, because he obviously signed for... No, anyway. Moving on. Right,
Okay.
Thank you so much. Any roundups you'd like there, Peter? Peter, anything you'd like to...
No, I really felt for Sainz this time. I mean, he doesn't have the luck that the other ones have, and it's just really the moment he started crying on the radio. I felt for him. He did a good job, and he's I think I'm inclined to think why Ferrari hasn't made a choice yet, because they want to give him the chance. But yeah, if you have bad luck, then there's nothing you can do.
Martin Brundle was a bit hoarse. Thank you. Martin Brundle was a bit hoarse last time. Yes, he is known to be a little bit hoarse, if you get my meaning. Yeah, he was. I guess he's been ill. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah. Oh,
Anyway, thank you.
should we mention why Nico Rosberg isn't on the track anymore?
Yes, please.
He's an anti-vaxxer. He's not allowed in.
Wow, he's not allowed in because he's an anti-vaxxer. Makes sense. You got to keep the rules. Got to keep the rules, even if you are ex-world champion once,
I mean,
and then gave up like a pussy. Okay. All right, never mind. I'm not saying anything. I like Nico. I've just got to say, I like Nico. Always liked Nico, even from the Williams days, of course, when he was a fantastic test driver for Williams. Fabio, any final comments on Austria? Do you think they'll switch sides again? Stay neutral? What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's over. Luckily. I mean, I just hope that we will not see, the scenes that they were, said to be happening with the people, on the track, stuff like that. And I mean, I'm coming from a country where we have Monza, we have Imola, we have Mugello, so we are not exactly stranger to, big bunch of people, watching a motor event as you do, Simons. Both countries with a lot of experience in that, Silverstone and all that shit, and things like the one which happened in Spielberg at the A1, they are not supposed to be happening. I mean, this is it's a shamble. It's really, I mean, this I think is the only thing right that the FIA said, in a press release and stuff like that. They said, that this kind of behavior, they do not belong to a racing track, to an F1 event. So
that's true.
No.
I mean, I'd just like to comment on it quickly, which is to say, the rise of fascism in Europe has been more prevalent since the Russians invaded Ukraine. And I think that's emboldened a lot of people to start talking about it again. The right wing in Europe never died. It just got quite small. And unfortunately, with all the attention that things like this get, it just aims to make it bigger, unfortunately. And I'm just so glad that I live in Great Britain where, the number of right-wing fascists is still quite small. So but it's a problem in Europe. It's a problem when it was a problem when the wall fell after Russia, and I don't think we're going to get rid of it by ignoring it. So I'm glad that people put it out there. Again, I'm disappointed by the FAA not bringing it up, not finding at least or doing something about it at the time and saying right, okay, we're going to ban.
I think Vettel came up with a good suggestion. People like that, give them a lifelong ban.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
Find out who it is. If they can find out who it is, the problem is they're in a sea of fucking orange, right? And you can't tell who's been saying what, and without those fans grasping on them. And of course they won't, because this is more of a problem in Europe than Europe wishes to believe.
But there is a solution, because this happens in football. And what you do then is you put stewards on the different spots to see who the troublemakers are and move them away from the circuit. Formula One doesn't want to do that yet because they don't think that it's giving of a good signal to the fans. I disagree.
No. I don't think that's a viable solution. The only thing which can happen and should happen would be for Max Verstappen, because those were his fans, would be for Max Verstappen to come up and say clearly that he doesn't want people like that.
He has done that.
Races.
He has done that. I've seen a press release.
He should have said that on the podium. That's where it counts. This is where everybody's listening. Press release, fuck it. I mean, Vettel gave back a press release and because they fined him and suspended. Do you think he doesn't really mean what he meant when he said, I've been listening to this shit for 15 years, I got enough of it? That's bonkers. I mean, these guys, they show their big balls riding the cars. They should show they got big balls, saying that things. There is no way around it, And again, I'm coming from an era where in motorcycle we had, Rossi and Gibernau, Rossi and Biaggi, people like that. And regardless of the support, you could have people sitting to each other, having different jerseys, and nobody bashed an eyelid. Everybody was rooting for the champion, and that's it. What has happened is beyond it, and I think that the drivers should have a big voice. I mean, they should make a big voice.
Yeah, but you saw Hamilton did that with his T-shirts. And he wore those T-shirts, and he got reprimanded that he couldn't do that anymore. But this is the is the FIA holding them back. I think they should let the drivers.
No, listen. No.
give their opinion.
The FIA is not give. No. I mean, those are two different things, you know. So the t-shirts for that Lewis put on and what Max should say about his fans in public are two completely different things. They're not even on the same
Yeah,
level.
I don't want.
And also, sorry, Simon. And also, Lewis, anyway, put his t-shirts anyway, even if the FIA told him not to, and they fined him, and he said, you know, fuck it, I'm gonna dress it, you know, again next time. So it's not a viable, objection to say that the FIA, you know, they're telling them not to do it. I mean, they can do whatever the fuck they want. When they have a camera and a microphone, they can do and say whatever the fuck you want and deal with the consequences. And I don't think anybody will say anything to them if Max Verstappen comes up and says, what my fans did is totally despicable, and I don't want anything to do with people which behave like that. That's it.
I think the difference here for me is a press release after can easily be ignored, and they are ignored. And I wanted, personally, I would have liked to see Max, even after the event. Maybe he didn't realise that it was said because he's in his own little bubble and the team are keeping it away from him, not
That's
to
true.
distract him from winning the F1 and then, you know, whatever. But they could have told him afterwards, hey, look, PR-wise, maybe it's a good idea to say this, but of course they don't want to. And the second thing I'd just say is, even after the fact, he can go and say something live somewhere. Right, and make it clear, because people will report what he says. They won't necessarily report that the team have made a press release saying that he said X, Y, Z, right? But if he says it, then they'll pay attention to it.
Well,
so I think he's
it was covered.
And,
It was
let me no. Let me finish, please, first. Which is to say that I do also think that the FIA should hold a huge amount of responsibility here, and they're the ones that should be leading and asking the drivers to make these statements on this and leading this cause, right? Because there's nothing in the rules that say the drivers can't do this on their own, right? The only thing that says in the rules is that they're not allowed to bring the sport into disrepute. And speaking out against racism certainly can't be interpreted that way.
Yeah.
So the drivers could do it perfectly on their own,
I
and
agree.
it's obviously not to the detriment of the sport if the drivers do say something.
No.
And I hope that the next race in France, especially it being France, is a good place to do this, is that all the drivers should be together at the front of the track before the race in solidarity with their signs saying we repudiate this, and in the centre should be Max Verstappen. Right, sorry, that's my little rant.
Remind me one thing. Didn't something, I seem to remember, maybe I'm confused, something which happened in Monza, that, you know, the people were booing somebody, and one of the drivers, I think it was, I think it was Schumacher, I'm not really sure. They just, you know, told him, you know, to shut the fuck up, stuff like that. I mean, they can do that, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah.
And even in Monza, I mean, when Lewis won, I mean, they were cheering up anyway. I mean, of course they were not happy, but fuck, you know, Yeah, exactly
Anyway. Right. Exactly right. And again, I just think that the FIA should be leading on this. This is one of their topics. We stand as one is an FIA thing, and for them not to be leading right now when they're making so many other mistakes is just ridiculous as far as I can see. Bob Elvis says, don't play politics with drivers. I don't like that, like the kneeling and stuff. Okay, fair enough. I don't see any problem with it myself, personally. What about you, Peter?
No, so I think that this is the thing. People look up to people in sports. I mean, everyone has their favorite driver. Those drivers can contribute to making the world just a little bit better just by speaking out on issues like this and other issues. So I don't see that there's a problem with people doing that. There is still a lot that needs to be done. And so Lewis, we've seen Lewis speak out against racism. Vettel had his helmet in Canada. This time he had a T-shirt on, "Save the Bees." Probably why he came in last. He was careful not to hit any while he was going across the track. But I mean, they can do that. They can have a voice, and as long as they have a voice in order to make the world a better place, then it's not a detriment to the sport. That means that you've got good people in the sport that will voice.
Right. Okay.
I
So
have no problem with it.
Perfectly valid. Yeah, that's a perfectly valid point. I just want to add one thing, which is, I don't mind the drivers getting involved with their political ideas, etc., provided they're at least on the beneficial side.
Exactly.
Say that, and not too partisan, as in terms of political ideology. I don't mind when it's ethical, but I don't particularly like it when it's political. But the main thing I would say is that drivers that don't get involved in it, like further back in the grid, I don't think they should be criticised for not holding up that sign. The exception that we've made today is Verstappen, because they were his fans.
Yes.
Right, and that's the difference there. Right, I do think if your fans or the fans pretending to, or at least supporting you, are saying shit which is clearly unethical, then I do think you should stand up and say, yeah, look, I disagree, and I wish to distance myself from what the fans are saying, and I don't consider them to be true fans, or something along those lines, to try and shame them at least some degree. Anyway, that's the two things on that particular point. Thank you. But Bub, I understand what you're saying. Sport and politics, it's a difficult mix. I just don't think because Formula One is very sporting that it matters particularly, right? It's not like we're talking about something which is like best man win type sport. These are team sports, and therefore, and with the politics that Formula One is involved with, I long ago gave up thinking that this was going to be some kind of I don't know what's the word, honourable kind of competition. It's just far from that anyway. Okay. Any last words, guys?
Nope.
No.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Bub, for all your comments. We really appreciate it. The next race is in 2 weeks' time, and of course we're at France, and we're at the boring French circuit of Paul Ricard, as opposed to the exciting French circuit that used to be Magny-Cours.
Yes.
Although I understand the pit entry was a bit of a fuckwit. But nonetheless, you got me going now. I'm riled. Anyway, I hope that we could see at least some combined demonstration from the drivers at the next race about the falling behaviour that we're seeing. Although, again, the media have trying to protect Formula One at any cost, right? Just like they are with all of the backroom driver stuff about the rules and the stewards. Right, they're just not broadcasting it, and it's getting out slowly but slowly, and it shouldn't be. That media should be just jumping on this and going, "Hang on a minute, we can put a good foot forward here." But no, they're stopping what actually happened, what was actually said, and what the resolution is going to be from coming out. And I really disagree that they're doing that. So once again, politics in Formula One. What can we say? Vote for your best team. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bob Elvis. He says great show, and it's gonna go for it. Says I don't know who gonna go for it is.
Some weird guy from the Netherlands.
Thank you, Bob Elvis. It's great to see you here, and every show participating in chat. It really is. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much, Peter. If you'd like to get to the outro, and we'll say it's goodbye from me. Ciao. And it's goodbye from him.
I should say goodbye by making the same gesture that Alonso made, which was with Tsunoda.
Okay. See you next week.
Fucking brilliant.
Ciao.